Town 39 at Reagan National. I'm John Matthews on News Talk 105.9 WMAL.
Now
on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
It's 8:06. That means it's our fourth of 4 hours of radio brilliance this morning. If you missed the first 3 hours, go ahead and download them from the podcast app of your choice. We're everywhere. Just search O'Connor and Company. Coming up in 30 minutes, really important conversation to be had with Billboard Chris. That's Chris ELSTON. And he's bringing Mia Hughes, who is one of the people involved in that study that links transgender drugs to cancer. That's with our children, by the way, those drugs that they want to give your children. That's coming up in just a moment. I'm Larry O'Connor alongside Mercedes Schlapp. Mercedes.
Hi.
It's always
and yes,
good to
it is
have you
not
here.
Thursday. It's Monday.
I know. It's a very fun thing to have you here on a Monday morning. Also fun, I'm sure, for our next guest, Ian Lovejoy, because, well, he doesn't have to deal with the general session anymore. He, of course, represents District 22 of Manassas. And, well, how did it go this first session? It was a whirlwind. The Democrats, boy, they don't mess around. What is this? 2,200 bills passed for Governor Youngkin to evaluate? Republicans are never that efficient and organized.
I think that probably for the people of the Commonwealth, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Passing more bad legislation isn't good for anybody.
What sticks out to you in terms of what they were trying to do? I'm just curious, was this about, solving problems for the people of Virginia, or was it about playing politics?
Well, they clearly had an agenda, and you can see that just from the bills they filed and crammed through. Doing what is best for the people of Virginia I would not think is one of the highest priorities that they had in mind. I think they wanted to make political points. I think they wanted to stick it to the governor. I think they wanted to make it not only difficult for members of the Republican flank of the General Assembly, but frankly for the people of the Commonwealth as well. So I think the motto of the day is watch your wallets, folks. It's going to be an interesting ride.
Yeah, it looked like the General Assembly sent over 2,200 bills to Governor Glenn Youngkin's desk in the past 60 days. And part of this budget deal was $2.5 billion in new funding for K through 12 public education, 3% salary increase for teachers and state employees. What were those bills that you were like, okay, we got to make sure the governor vetoes this? What were the main ones?
Oh, there's so many that are bad for business and bad for individuals. You have a terrible bill where if you happen to ask an individual's salary history, you can be fined thousands of dollars, and that's up to several years later. You have just so many. It's not just anti-individual, but certainly anti-business. You have localities giving themselves raises, like incredibly high raises for local elected officials, which I think benefit Democrat elected officials more than a lot of places, which to me reeks of cronyism bill to help Democratic benefactors and Democratic friends. But the biggest issue of all, of course, is just the budget itself, which in 60 days manages to undo a lot of the tax relief that residents have seen in the Commonwealth, and will saddle families with $2.6 billion of additional taxes. It's a madness at this time.
I always try to focus on education issues here because Democrats believe that, they own this issue because they've got the teachers union in their back pocket. But, boy, we've seen that narrative turn pretty quickly here. Republicans wanted legislation that makes it harder, that allows for teachers to remove a disruptive student from the classroom. It seems pretty reasonable to me. It's shocking to me, right, by the way, that this is determined at the state legislative level and not in the school board and local systems. But students unruly or disruptive 3 times sent to the principal's office. If they're violent, they go immediately. Meanwhile, Democrats, they pass legislation making it harder to remove a student who's disruptive during educational time. Do they not know what's going on in our schools right now?
Clearly they're not spending time in our schools. You're absolutely right. Legislation is passed that I'm, highly optimistic the governor will veto. But essentially it's telling teachers and schools that you have to go through some kind of redemptive coaching with the student before you can move on to anything that takes them out of the classroom or out of the school. And that's for any offense. So your kid gets beaten up, the other kid gets at least gets one pass. Kid curses out his teacher, student gets at least one pass, and they can't be removed or suspended from the class or school until some type of kumbaya moment happens.
Wait,
and everyone holds hands.
Kid curses out the teacher. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
So also on the issue of housing, they talked a lot about rent control in Virginia. But the reality is this is about adding more regulations to those who own rental properties. Where did that end up?
Unfortunately, kind of the comments that we've been making is that the only laws that got stricter were on landlords. So we've loosened a lot of laws on criminals and certainly didn't tighten any laws on fentanyl dealers and the people murdering our neighbors. But if you're a landlord in the Commonwealth of Virginia, watch out, because it's a bevy of laws passed making it more onerous if you're a landlord trying to rent property. And it's shocking that that's where we decided to put our time and energy while passing absolutely nothing on fentanyl criminals.
They also, of course, they sent famously I think it's over 60 bills related to the Second Amendment and gun owners. And they claim to care about gun violence and gun deaths, even though Virginia is actually middle of the pack, if not lower third right now with regard to violent gun deaths, certainly, in the Commonwealth, and even accidental gun deaths or suicides. It's like they're obviously just trying to infringe on the Second Amendment and put Youngkin in a political situation here. But I just want to point out one of these bills. It would require local school boards to provide an annual notification to parents of their legal responsibility to safely store all firearms in their home and provide parents statistics on firearm-related accidents, injuries, and deaths. A very noble idea, but my God, it's insulting and condescending, frankly.
It's not only insulting, but that's a part of a broader attempt. They want to notify the parents about that information so they can ultimately hold them criminally accountable if they don't lock their guns up well enough based on.
But that's already on the books. The mother of the child who killed a teacher down in Virginia because the gun was not stored legally, she's been found criminally responsible. So, what are they...
There's a mechanism. There's a mechanism for that, but they want to make it absolutely more capability on the parents' part, where if you lock the gun up, if you don't hide the key well enough, you can be held accountable. My favorite crazy bill is if you have a gun stolen out of your car and report that somebody broke the window, stole your gun out of your car, you can be slapped with a penalty because your gun got stolen because apparently you didn't have it locked up well enough inside of your car. Yeah. Because it's your fault, yeah.
Once again, and giving the criminal the pass on it. Ian Lovejoy, we got to leave it there. Thanks for checking in. Congratulations on surviving your first session. Now it's time to get back to
20 bills sent to the governor's desk. We're excited.
Time to get back to your real job now.
Yeah, absolutely. Have a great day, y'all.
You bet. Delegate Ian Lovejoy, District 22 in Manassas. And just one thing, as we go through all of these bills, forcing a school board to notify parents about their legal responsibility of storing their guns, it's like, while they're doing that, while they're writing that up, while they're having hearings about that, they're not having a hearing about, the actual crime problem in Northern Virginia, about empowering law enforcement. They're not having a hearing about how they can run the government more efficiently and cut spending and get rid of fraud and all of that. No, this is their priority, Mercedes. It's absolutely maddening when they don't take their job seriously. It's 8:15. Why do we take their job more seriously than they do? Explain that to me.
That's a great question. Right. I think they don't. Their priorities are very different than ours.
Yes, they are.
Government's the solution, and we actually believe that people are smart enough and to handle it. And I think Governor Youngkin handled it pretty good, considering he had a lot of opposition.
Yeah. 8:15.
WMAL, making sense of the forecast, because you never know what Mother Nature has in store. Download the WMAL app to stream us for free.
It's Larry O'Connor alongside Mercedes Schlapp. Now, the things are odd with Joe Biden. I don't know if you've noticed this. You never know what's going to come out of his mouth at any given time. And he's got a brand new sort of messaging as he launches his campaign here. I want you to listen. He's standing there with Dr. Jill Biden. She's a doctor, you know. I'm not sure if you were aware of that. And he
needs a doctor,
and he wants
a real doctor.
Yes, exactly. Not her. And he had this message for all Americans in terms of what his plan is for his second term. Listen about the priorities here.
Through pretty tough times, and I know we got a lot more to do. We had to stay off. We had to start off by vaccinating America. Trump stood flat-footed during that period of time.
Now, I think he meant to say that, looking in the past, we had to start, but his words get jumbled. And don't start with the stutter thing. He doesn't have a stutter. His brain doesn't work. I'm sorry. I've seen videos of the guy for the last, 6 decades. He's been part of our life. He's never stuttered. So he said, we have to start off by vaccinating America. So basically his plan here is to vaccinate everybody again, I think.
Right, because that really worked the first time.
That's really worked
really,
a great time the first time.
I mean, but that just shows you, like, when he's off the teleprompter, he really cannot function. If he's off his drugs, like, he needs to, like, let us know what drugs he's on.
Yeah.
That's what I want to know. Seriously.
Now, I know that President Trump didn't mandate the vaccine. But he's still sort of he's angry that Joe Biden is like walking around taking, as Trump puts it, taking credit for the COVID-19 shot. And Trump pushes back on that and say, what do you say? I did all the work on that thing. That I should get credit. But, there's a lot of voters who don't think anyone should get credit. In fact, they think people should be blamed for that shot, if not investigated in some way. Is this a tough one for Trump? Is it enough for him to say, oh, listen, I think the shot is great, but I didn't mandate it, and then walk away and that's enough? Because he certainly laid the foundation for companies to mandate.
I think it would be smart for President Trump to follow the lead of Senator Ron Johnson and hone in on these people who have been injured when it came to vaccine-related injuries. And because remember, these pharmaceutical companies, there's no liability. They don't have to pay for anything.
Right.
And you have the VAERS reporting system, which is a disaster. And so, like, it's one thing for President Trump to be like, yep, I went through Operation Warp Speed, we got a vaccine. But at the same time, there needs to be raised questions as to the follow-up, which was the vaccine mandates on which the Biden administration pushed when I think it was wrong. And then even how the pandemic was handled, where you had, Dr. Fauci being an authoritarian figure when it came
I think it would
dealing with this issue.
You're very correct here, and very smart idea that Trump he should say that he's going to do what should have been done over the last 3 years, and that is to do a full forensic investigation of what happened, what they knew, and what they withheld from President Trump during the pandemic. Fauci should be investigated. He should say, listen, I did my best, and I think I shepherded us through this thing in this extraordinary time. But now, in retrospect, we need to unpack all of this and find out what they knew, what they didn't tell me when I was president.
You got to unpack it, because the next pandemic will come again.
Of course it will.
And that's what we have to realize, whether it's a biological, use of a warfare from the Chinese or something natural, like where it's going to come again, and we got to be prepared.
And he should definitely say, listen, I mobilized our government and industry, and we got the shot through quicker than anybody ever could have. That said, now we need to look at this thing even further and find out what we did wrong with the shot as well. He gets very personal about this whenever anybody raises issues on the COVID-19 shot, because he wants to take ownership of it. And I think that it would be really wise for him to step up and say the American people deserve to know, listen, I did everything that I could, and I think I did the right thing, but that doesn't mean everything was perfect, and the American people deserve the facts now. It is 8:22. An awkward moment at the Madonna concert. The 65-year-old was performing. And you know how rock stars do the whole, everybody on your feet. Let's go on your feet, on your feet. And she noticed one person kind of in the front row there not standing, still sitting, and she was like, well, what are you doing? Why aren't you standing up? Turns out the person was in a wheelchair. So here's how it went.
Check this right with me. What are you doing sitting down over there? What are you doing sitting down? Oh, okay. Politically incorrect. Sorry about that. I'm glad you're here.
Politically incorrect. Sorry about that. Well, they reach a certain age and they don't have really good vision. Mercedes, right?
Or poor memory, for that matter.
Of course, let's face it, if Joe Biden can get away with it.
I also am told that Chuck Graham, state senator, is here. Chuck, stand up. Chuck, let him see you. Oh, God love you. What am I talking about?
God love you.
Chuck's also
what am
in
I
a
talking
wheelchair.
about?
Chuck's also in a wheelchair. God love you. So there you go. When you're ever wondering the answer to the trivia question, what do Joe Biden and Madonna have in common? It's that. Well, and they both like to dress up in bustiers and fishnet stockings. Allegedly. I'm kidding. Madonna doesn't dress like that anymore. It's 8:30, and we've got Billboard Chris next.
WMAL-FM, Woodbridge, Washington, a Cumulus media station.
Making sense of the news.
News Talk 105.9.
Now.
On 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
8:36 now. It's Larry O'Connor alongside Mercedes Schlapp for a rare Monday appearance here on O'Connor and Company. It's always good to have you, though, Mercy.
My goodness, Monday is like news day.
Yeah.
It's insane.
It's always a crazy busy day here, but that's how we like it. Keeps us focused, keeps us going. We got a lot of victories ahead of us, folks, and because of that, we like to focus on some of the great warriors, the tip of the spear on so many different fights that we've got. One of them, of course, is our friend Billboard Chris. He's Chris ELSTON, and he brings to the table today the author of a report that we discussed last week, Mia Hughes. Chris, Mia, thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you, Larry.
So, Mia, let's start with you, because this report says that there's this think tank, Environmental Progress, that says hundreds of messages from an internal message service for a group called World Professional Association for Transgender Health, WPATH. It's an internal forum where they discussed what appears to be their knowledge that puberty blockers and hormone treatments prescribed for children who are going through what they euphemistically call gender-affirming care, that those drugs appear to be linked to cancer. Is that the nut of this whole report?
That's certainly one of the main points that stands out, is a very chilling conversation where a doctor talks about a 16-year-old girl who's on testosterone and has large liver tumors. And it's her oncologist and surgeon think it is linked to her hormones. And then another WPATH member weighs in with an anecdote about a trans-identified colleague who died of liver cancer after years on testosterone, and they also linked it to the hormones. So that's one of obviously the most worrying and serious side effects you could imagine.
But it's also worrying and deeply disconcerting that the medical professionals involved in these procedures don't say this publicly. It's what they say privately, certainly. And it should be noted that none of these drugs were ever tested in any real way for this application, right? That these were not developed for children and this so-called gender-affirming care, or am I wrong about that?
Oh, no, they certainly weren't. I mean, we have absolutely no evidence that giving testosterone to females is safe. We certainly know from the East German doping scandals of the past that testosterone in females has very, very harmful effects on the body. We have no evidence that puberty blockers are safe for adolescents. We have no evidence that long-term use of estrogen in males is safe. And yet, this is an organization, WPATH, that advocates for this to be the first line of treatment because they believe helping a child accept the reality of their body, they believe that's something akin to conversion therapy. So they advocate for this experimental treatment pathway as the first line of treatment for a very vulnerable cohort in society.
Let me ask, Chris, how many studies have been out there that would link these drugs, these puberty blockers, to cancer or any other potentially threatening health issues associated with the puberty blockers? Do we know?
Well, there have never been any clinical studies done for the purpose of treating children with gender dysphoria. This drug is used off-label. This drug was actually approved to treat prostate cancer in men, to treat endometriosis and uterine fibroids in women. Same exact drug is given to pedophiles to chemically castrate them. But what we're doing with kids is just a giant experiment, except you can't even really call it an experiment because there are no control groups, there are no randomized control trials, there are no objectives, there's no follow-up. It's just the Wild West of medicine. But we do know that from some small studies that puberty blockers are causing IQ points to drop. We know with a study with sheep that caused cognitive decline. We know that it causes their bones to lose density. A girl in Sweden that was part of a documentary they produced has a condition called osteopenia. She's in chronic pain. There's a mom I talked to in California who they did bone scans for 3 years while her daughter was on puberty blockers, and she lost 11% of her bone density at a time when her bones should be getting stronger.
Right. I wanted to point that out, Chris, because this is the moment where these children, perfectly healthy bodies, are going through this rapid change. We all went through puberty. We know what happens to our bodies, and this is when they thrive. This is when they grow. This is when they develop, and they are chemically preventing that from happening and altering the natural course that the body is supposed to take for literally no reason. And Chris Elston, because you engage in these conversations with people on a regular basis, oftentimes people who have been brainwashed with regard to this agenda, you often hear, do you want a trans daughter or do you want a dead son, right? It's the most manipulative thing, because if you don't affirm this gender transition, your kid is going to kill themselves. Well, there seems to be a pretty big risk of going forward with this as well now, with the cancer that appears to be at least something that that these doctors know about.
Of course, they're playing God with children's bodies. And whether you believe in God or evolution, this makes no sense. If you believe in God, this ideology teaches God made us wrong. And if you believe in evolution, it's essentially saying that somehow 1 billion years of the process of natural selection has failed, and we now need a pharmaceutical company to help our kids be their true selves. We're messing with children's bodies.
Yeah.
This is totally insane. And what's wrong with these kids? Nothing.
Nothing.
They've been taught that they need to be something they're not. That's abusive psychologically, never mind all the physical harm that's happening to them.
Mia Hughes is with us, and she's the author of this report that revealed the discussions on this internal forum of World Professional Association for Transgender Health. Have you released all of the data here, all of the messages that you got? And has there been any response from the organization or from any other medical group saying, wow, this is a serious issue?
We have released all of the internal files that were given to Michael Schellenberger have been released. So my report is 70 pages, and then after the report is every single message that we were given. WPATH has responded with a very vague, very sort of politically driven statement, basically claiming that they are scientific and evidence-based when they are not, and also making a bizarre statement about the world not being flat.
Of course.
Jeez.
Well, and actually to that end, Mia, I know Michael Schellenberger and Matt Taibbi and some of the other journalists who have sort of gone off the reservation here and actually followed facts on issues that are part of a sort of left-wing dogma. Have they gone after you? Are they attacking you for actually, reporting a story, something that's important that last I checked journalists were supposed to be reporting on?
There's been some response, but I haven't been paying very much attention to the noise on the other side. I'm sticking to the message. I presented their words as they said them, and then I just put it into a historical and scientific context. So I'm confident that everything I said was true to the best of my knowledge, and I'm not really paying that much attention to what the other side is saying right now.
Excellent.
So are the doctors going to do anything at all? I mean, the doctors are the ones also pushing this. Why is the medical industry so involved in making our children into these hormonal experiments?
I believe that everyone has been duped by WPATH. This is a political activist group that presents itself to the world as being a scientific and medical group. And it's a very convincing facade. They have a very carefully crafted public image. And I think everybody has fallen for it, and they've gone along with it because they believe WPATH is doing all the science somewhere, and they really do have the evidence when they do not. So it's really time for the medical world to wake up to the fact that this is not a real scientific organization, and to reject their approach to gender-affirming care, and then protect children.
Yeah, I'm seeing you being referred to as an anti-transgender extremist, Mia Hughes. So I guess you're over the target.
Join the club.
Yeah, and Chris Elston, real fast, where can people catch it? Where are you these days as people are engaging with you on street corners and also sometimes yelling at you? Where can they find you next?
Well, I'm heading to Australia next month, so that'll be fun. But I'm also heading to Washington State and Nashville pretty soon. And I don't know, I'll be all around. I'll be back to D.C., and hopefully we can get together for coffee.
That would be great. In the meantime, keep up the great work, both of you. You deserve support. You deserve accolades. Mia Hughes, this is the kind of reporting that used to win awards. But, well, we come up with our own awards, and we'll be giving one to you, all right?
Thank you so much.
It is, sadly, we're out of time, though. It is 8:46, in fact, and we got to check in with Jamie Whitten in the Hadid Carpet Cleaning Traffic Center.
Traffic is brought to you by Jiffy Lube.
Yesterday was the Academy Awards, the Oscars, and I got to say, Mercedes Schlapp, for the most part, this was actually one of the better shows that they've put on. I'm not a big fan of Jimmy Kimmel, but if you look beyond him, it was a weird thing where you kind of knew what was going to win everything. You knew Oppenheimer was going to run away with it. Oppenheimer did run away with it. But, it was the same year when Titanic ran away with everything. That was a good show, too. Or the year Braveheart ran away with everything. That was a good show. Oppenheimer won Best Picture, Best Actor, Best Supporting Actor. Robert Downey Jr. was really inspirational, actually, considering what he has been through on a personal level. And he's like a genuine movie star, He does movies like this. He wins his first Oscar. He also, obviously, Iron Man, and just sort of he helped create that entire Marvel movie franchise. I don't know. It felt like Hollywood glamour, for one.
Good. I didn't watch it, so I can't really
I hear you.
Comment too much. I really have gotten over all their political insanity. I think Jimmy Kimmel went after Trump, of course.
He did. I was saving that for the end here.
Sorry. Well,
no, don't be sorry. I just I wanted to lay it out just because it was literally at the end of the show too. But there was a great moment when Arnold Schwarzenegger and Danny DeVito, the movie Twins, they appeared on stage. But then they said, well, we're here because we tried to kill Batman. And they cut to Michael Keaton, and Michael Keaton was perfectly in character, just staring them down as Batman. Michael Keaton was the best Batman, seriously. And they both slipped into their Penguin and Mr. Freeze characters and started like John with Michael Keaton. It was very funny. And Ryan Gosling, who played Ken, he performed the song "I'm Just Ken," and it was actually really, really great. He got all of the movie stars to sing along with him. Here's what it sounded like. Dude's got a voice. Ryan Gosling is amazing. He really is.
I've confused Ryan Gosling with Ryan Reynolds. Like, I thought it was Ryan Reynolds at one point.
That's
but
hilarious.
my girls love that song. I mean, they do listen to the Barbie soundtrack, although the movie was pathetic.
Yeah.
And I think it was talking, pushing toxic masculinity or these weak men. It was
the best thing is Ryan Gosling's character is actually sort of the best character in the movie, even though they're trying to downplay Ken.
My girls, my girls really well, and like Viana and Katerina and Ava were like horrible movie. They were like doing a philosophical, dissection into the movie.
Well, they're too smart.
And then you had Lucia, it was Ava and Alyssa were just like, oh, it was so fabulous.
There you go.
Barbie's great.
It's 8:53. Mercedes, I want you to have a Cadillac of a day, and we'll see you on Thursday.
We'll see you on Thursday.
In the meantime, look who's here. It's Christopher Plant.
I'll see him tonight.
Your primetime buddy.
We will see each other later on because this is our want. This is our habit.
Sure.
It is good.
Did you spring forward this weekend, by the way?
I did. I did spring forward, yeah. Good for you. I did, yeah. It worked out pretty nicely, I think. The the sun went down at a much better hour. I like that very much. We were out hiking around.
Yep.
Got stuff, ate food. It was good.
Good.
Glad
to hear it.
Yeah,
you going to talk about that for the next 3 hours?
Probably not. No.
All right.
No. We got Lunch Bucket Joe. He was on a tear this weekend getting fluffed by Jonathan Capehart. And did you know that Joe Biden has the back of black people more than any president since the racist LBJ? Much more than Barack Obama had black people's back. You think Barack Obama had black people's backs? He didn't. Joe Biden does. He's